40s pour on the floor today, man. That's all I gotta say. A lot of 40s are pouring on the floor.
We had to bring Brad in just to hold all the extras.
True.
The second I heard the news, I flew all the way back from Africa just to be here for this.
You mean that Brad was going to be on the episode?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I'm very touched. Yeah, the stars aligned, and I'm glad I can join you guys. It's the first time I've been on the show for a while, but here I am.
And we're happy to have you back. Since you've been gone the longest, Brad, what are your general thoughts on season 4 so far?
I think I said this on the Facebook group page, but where's Scott Gimple been for the last 3 years? So incredibly happy with this season. My favorite episode ever before, the one we're going to talk about tonight was gosh, I can't even remember what happened. It was so good. Like the one that was just, it just blew me away.
The one with Herschel where he's being badass the whole time.
Yeah, that was just in the prison. That was just my favorite episode, bar none, of this season. Yeah, of this season and the whole series. And of course, this one that we're going to talk about is giving it a run for its money for that title. But I'm extremely happy with this season. Very happy. It's made up for some of the downtime over the last few years. I'm ecstatic.
Now, Aaron, you've only been gone a couple weeks on your lovely vacation overseas. So first off, how was your vacation? And second off, what have you thought of the few episodes you missed while you were away?
In terms of my vacation, I'm at a point in my life now where I can say that I've petted cheetahs. So, I mean, that's not something I expected to be able to say, but I can do that. And that pretty much encapsulates the entire trip. I went to, for those who don't know, I went to Africa, or South Africa to be exact, for a couple weeks. And it was just a fantastic trip. I went with my dad. We saw lots of animals and Victoria Falls, all sorts of sights. It was really, really cool. And I actually blogged about it. So, yeah.
Was Victoria okay?
Wait a minute, they have Cheetos in Africa?
Yep.
Big enough to pet, apparently.
Yeah, they're dangerously cheetahs. So.
I didn't think they sold those over there.
But yeah, it was actually, they had Pringles. Pringles are very popular in Africa. It was a great trip. Had a great time. As far as the episodes were, there was live bait and dead weight. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay. I actually snuck out a review of live bait before I left, but
that's true. I forgot about that.
No, it's all good. I certainly was siding with Jim. I listened to your guys' podcast on that one. It was the Crossfire podcast, the first one.
The first of two.
The first of two. And yeah, I definitely sided with Jim on that one. I kind of, and I felt the same about dead weight too. I just overall, I wasn't a big fan of what they were doing with the governor. Then again, I've never been much of a big fan of how they portrayed the governor. So these two episodes didn't really help me in that fact. And I would probably lean to say that those were maybe my least favorite episodes of the series so far. But I certainly like things about them. I think there's a lot of imagery in dead weight that I really enjoyed. Like there's the whole scene of like the governor and the guys walking to the woods and they find the body with like the sign that say liar, murderer, rapist, and like that was pretty cool. And like the zombies in the mud scene, even though that scene made no sense to me. There's like there's some good filmmaking there, but overall the governor's story just doesn't do a whole lot for me this season. And we'll get to that more in this episode, I guess.
Question number 3. So question number 1. Have you perfected your South African accent?
See, I don't want to like insult you. I just try. I haven't practiced it that much myself, but you have to be very agreeable while also doing this kind of fake British Australian type thing. So sure, yeah, we got South African, yeah, I'm sure.
Just say diplomatic immunity.
Oh, that's easy. Diplomatic immunity.
And something about just making sure I'm not standing on plastic.
There's a lot of secrets in District 9, yeah?
See, the only word I feel like I could effectively say in a South African accent from District 9, I'd have to bleep on the show, so it wouldn't really be effective. But that is a fun accent. It sounds always excited, sort of the way that German always sounds angry.
Yes, yeah, I know, yeah. It's very nice there, too. I mean, it's not like I was staying in the slums or anything, so I don't know the true secret of South Africa, but it was such a nice place. Like, it was such a very enjoyable place to be where you didn't feel like there was any, issues you would be running into as a tourist, for sure, anyway.
Nice. Well, gentlemen, without any further ado, what do you say we talk about some Walking Dead?
Pretty good idea.
Alrighty. Episode 8 of Season 4 of The Walking Dead was entitled Too Far Gone. It was directed by Ernest Dickerson and written by Seth Hoffman. And we lost a lot of folks this week, so we'll get through as best we can. Hopefully we can give them all their due. We start out with the governor. He's convincing the remaining members of his camp to follow him to the prison, and we can see that Lily isn't really convinced about all this, but everyone else seems to be pretty gung-ho about it. The governor, if he's not lacking one thing, that thing is charisma. He's got a lot of it, and people like to follow him along. And we see some flashbacks to the end of last week's episode with him coming up on the prison and seeing Rick and Carl. And it's revealed through conversation first, kind of subtly, but then we quickly find out that he has kidnapped Herschel and Michonne, and he's going to use them as collateral, as ammunition against the prison group.
I thought we found that out first. Wasn't that the first cutaway before he said it?
I don't think you see him kidnapping them until after he actually has mentioned it once or twice.
Yeah, it's all interspliced and kind of follows the pattern of his speech with what's going on. Like he eventually mentions, like, I've taken them hostage, and we see how he did that exactly.
Because I'd actually forgotten to mention it last week, but the scene they showed during Talking Dead was a truncated version of this one, and they say the line once they realize their people are gone. And I wish I'd remembered it last week so we could talk about it on the show, but yeah, that gave up to go a little bit early.
Yeah, it's funny. I wasn't expecting that at all. I wasn't expecting him to have kidnapped anybody. I was expecting, a full-out assault and that we were going to kind of see what we saw, but let alone it be Herschel and Michonne. I was really surprised by that. I mean, in a good way. But on a side note, it's funny. I think we talked about a couple episodes ago that it's sad because every time somebody gives like a really forthright, hearty speech and tries to buck the system and want to do their own thing against the group, that person doesn't make it.
Yep.
So as soon as I saw that Herschel was kidnapped with Michonne, I'm like, well, the streak is alive.
Although I got to say, they faked me out very well in the beginning of this episode. We're not quite yet, but in a scene later on, pretty early in the episode, Glenn and Maggie are talking, and the way they were talking, I was like, well, they're setting up for at least one of them to die.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's still a whole other half of the season, but I was expecting it to happen here.
It was a bit of a tip-off of the whole episode, too, with him fighting the flu and everything, when they had so much great character development for his character, and they really got, he had that real crisis of faith or whatever. It just seemed like they were setting him up for some sort of catastrophe, whether losing Maggie or being killed himself. Right. Those are the two options I saw, anyway.
Honestly, I was just so sure that Herschel was going to die this episode that I just couldn't imagine them also killing off either Maggie or Glenn. So
yeah, that would have been surprising, although I could see at least one of the daughters dying along with him, and it would have worked. But
it would have boosted my star rating, I can tell you that.
I expected Beth to bite it.
Well, Russ can attest to this. We'll get into it later, but I actually predicted that one of the daughters would die in a very specific way, and it did not happen, but the other half of my prediction, which happened off air, did happen. So we'll get to that later. But I agree with you, Brad. I was quite sure that was going to happen. So, still with the governor, he talks to his people and he talks to Lily, and he basically says, people of the prison are monsters. My only concern are your safety and Megan's safety. Besides that, I just want this prison. He then goes into the trailer where Michonne and Herschel are being held captive, and he tells them his plans to take over the prison. And, Michonne very clearly tells him, when I get the chance, I'm going to murder you. And he tells her he has no ill will towards her. He was mad at her, but, kind of like we had seen from her angle a few episodes ago. He's just here for the prison. He wants to take it peacefully if he can. He was going to give everybody a chance to leave, but if they don't, he's fully willing to use his tank and firepower to take it by force.
Do you guys believe that for a second?
I think if everyone had just said, yes, we will leave, he would have let them leave and then maybe hunted them down on his own. But I think for appearance's sake, he would have had to let them actually leave.
I don't believe for a second that he would have let Rick and Michonne leave. I think, he would have chased after him. I don't think he would have waited. I think he had it in for him too much. He was too crazy to be sane. You know what I'm saying? He was just obsessed with them, and I don't think for a second he would let him leave. But
I don't think that in his mind he thought that they were going to give up peacefully. I think he put that out there as an option, but I think he was convinced in his own mind these people are not going to give this up without a fight. Period. It's not even up for discussion. It's not even entering my mind. But I'm going to come off as a bigger man by giving them an opportunity to leave.
And then when they don't take it, then he looks even better. So I get what you're saying. I think that sounds viable.
I agree with what Russ has to say, and I'll have more to say later on. But honestly, I don't know what the governor's actual intent was in a way that's bothersome to me. But we'll get to that more. I guess we'll go on.
Before we exit that scene, Herschel tells the governor, both groups can live together. You say you're a changed man, believe me. I know you hate Rick, but he has changed a lot too since last time you saw him. It'll be hard, but we can make this work. And the governor dismisses him. So back at the prison, like I talked about before, Glenn and everybody else is recuperating from being sick with the flu. And Glenn and Maggie have a nice little scene where they talk about the fact that they think it's their anniversary. And Maggie relays some stories from her childhood, which again made me think that she was going to die, probably brutally. And then we cut over to Daryl, who we kind of cut in after Rick has told him what happened with Carol. But Daryl is angry, but I'd say he takes it pretty well. He's upset he was left out of the decision, but he seems to understand that if Carol really did it, which he doesn't fully believe that she did, but if she really did do it, he kind of seems to have sided with Rick.
Yeah, it's pretty much the expected response that I was expecting from Daryl.
I kind of had issue with that. I think he would have been a lot more upset, and maybe ultimately he would have agreed with it, but I think it was too quick. It was like Rick saying what he was saying. You could tell Daryl was a little mad, but then he kind of calmed down really fast, and I don't know. I had a problem with that exchange overall.
I'd like to think we probably cut away from the initial reaction, and maybe this was kind of a later on conversation, like after Daryl cooled off. I mean, that's guesswork, and that's the show's fault for not showing us more of that, I guess. But I mean, maybe for time's sake, we just got rid of some of that conversation.
It seemed like that was going to be the big confrontation, other than telling Tyrese, would be telling Daryl because they were so close. It didn't seem like that moment was in the show.
Well, if we didn't have 2 episodes devoted to the governor, maybe we would have had time for it.
it didn't bother me that we didn't actually see Rick telling Daryl. I think for me personally, I saw enough of Daryl's reaction to know what Rick had just told him. Okay, I don't need to actually see Rick say it. And I thought it was kind of a neat decision on the producer's part to say, let's not actually show Rick saying it. Let's just cut to the chase because we got a lot of story to take care of in this episode. I think they probably made a wise decision on shortening that. And I didn't say anything about this, but I loved the 2 Governor episodes. They were very different, very unexpected. So I am not in the I hated it camp at all. I loved it, but that's just an aside. So I don't have a problem with I don't have a problem that Aaron had. But anyway, I liked them just cutting to the chase with telling Daryl.
Somewhere around here, we also have another scene with the governor where he set up Megan and Lily on. I guess my impression at least was that this was an island surrounded on both sides by water with maybe a blocked off bridge or something going to it, because they only seem concerned about the egress from the river that zombies could attack them from. But he's kind of set up camp there for Lily and Megan to stay there and to be safe while he and the rest of the group go to the prison. He hugs Megan goodbye, and it's actually, even despite everything that comes later, it's kind of a sweet scene where she's covered in mud and so she doesn't want to get his jacket dirty and he doesn't care, etc. I mean, we all know what's coming and we all know what he's capable of, but it's still, I bought it.
Well, but then you also see the governor kind of giving Lily a look like, look how much your daughter likes me. Like, don't be mad at me for this terrible plan I have. Like, I see the 2 sides of this, where yes, he obviously has a connection to his daughter, reminds him of Penny and everything, but there's also I need to prove to Lily that this may sound horrible, but the greater good.
It's almost like 2 divorced parents or parents who are just about to divorce fighting over children.
Governor versus governor.
Yeah.
I got the feeling that Lily was torn between being extremely creeped out by the governor and being forced to find somebody to depend on, or somebody that she could talk herself into believing that she could have some kind of relationship with or whatever. But every time he spoke to her, she just always had this look on her face like, this guy is really wigging me out.
I agree. Yeah, I feel like as the governor's moved into the Team Martinez camp, we have a name for it. She's kind of seen the layers get peeled back on the governor to see kind of who he really is in this time. She hasn't been able to witness him actually do horrible things. She's witnessed him after the fact or in a change of mood compared to how she first met him. That makes her kind of realize, I don't know if this is the right guy for me after all.
We cut back over to the prison, and in that last scene with Daryl and Rick, Daryl says, "Well, I might have taken this okay, but let's go see what Tyrese has to say." And he decides to go along with Rick, potentially to help soften the blow, potentially to actually soften some real blows if he has to between the 2 of them after what happened last time. And they go find Tyrese, kind of back a ways in the prison in a dark corner, and they tell him, Tyrese, we got something to tell you. And he goes, no, whatever it is, it can wait because you've got to see what I just found. So they go back into this one corner against the door, and there's, I guess, a rat or a squirrel or some small rodent that has been bisected down the middle and is tacked to a piece of plywood and has its organs opened up, creepy-wise. I don't know exactly how you explain it otherwise, but Tyrese goes into a rant about this must be the same person who killed Lily and Frank or whatever the guy's name was, and that psychopath is still out there. We got to find him, and they're just about to tell him, or they tell him, no, there's definitely 2 different people who killed the people and who's leaving the rats and this thing here, and they're about to tell him what really happened when all of a sudden the explosions start.
Let's stop there because we got to talk about this rat thing.
I wasn't going to just plow through that.
What the hell is going on with this? So clearly that's like the same person feeding the walkers, right? I think that's a safe guess.
Somebody has a rodent fixation.
All right, let's stop even faster and let's go back to the premiere. Whoever was feeding those, I think it was the premiere. Whoever was feeding those.
I think it was at the very beginning of the 2nd episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoever was doing that was on the inside with them. Obviously, they had adult hands. Okay. I looked at this scene more than once. This was not a small child doing it.
The hands were also able to get all the way up to the zombies' mouths without reaching up. So,
right. So
I'm totally with you.
But the people that I talked to about the show that I work with, one of the guys is convinced that creepy little girl that was kind of a pseudo daughter to Carol or whatever, and the one that in this episode says, "Hey, they got guns, we should get guns." That creepy girl.
I can't remember her name, but I'll be referring to her as Rufia. Lizzie. It's Rufia in the Lost Girls.
Her name is Lizzie.
Okay. It is Lizzie, but she's Rufia.
He's convinced that she's the one that was feeding the zombies and the one that dissected the squirrel and packed it up for everybody to see. So I'm hoping that it's not her simply because it was an adult hand that was feeding the zombies, and like you said, they were tall enough to reach. So I just wondered if you guys had any thoughts about
beyond that, the whole dissecting the rat thing and tacking it up took a lot of dexterity. That was not a
that
was well done.
In middle school, I dissected frogs and stuff.
But this girl hasn't been in middle school. It's been a year and a half. She was like 7 when the world went to hell.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I don't know if it's Lizzie necessarily, but I'm kind of thinking it's one of these youngsters. I think one of these youngsters is up to something, and I'm starting to also think that maybe Carol actually didn't kill them. Maybe she found one of these girls killing them and covered up for her. I'm kind of thinking that might be actually the case.
I could buy that actually.
That's kind of where I'm at right now. I honestly think that
I would actually like to see that.
It would
'Cause
it would
I
rectify,
like Carol.
I do too. And it would rectify kind of problems I had with the lead up to her exit. Like I like that episode where Rick made her leave, but the lead up to that I had problems with. But I feel like if there's a whole other twist on top of that, which it seems like it's going to be the case, given things that are happening, maybe it'll go on to make me appreciate what the setup was to begin with more.
Yeah, I'm almost feeling to some degree like it's become a moot point. I mean, they're out of the prison, so it's not really important as to who's stirring them up because that whole situation has changed. I guess maybe if they're just doing a slow burn with this, that it's somebody in there that can't be trusted, or that.
Well, yeah. Once the group once they regroup and find them, each other, and we can only assume this will happen. Once the strange dissected rodents start showing up again, like I said, a slow burn, it's gonna come back around, and it's gonna go.
There's no reason to have a whole scene involving a dissected rat, and Tyrese, Daryl, and Rick looking at this like, what the hell's going on before you get to the other stuff. Like they're clearly have to be setting up something here. I mean, and they've set up the rat, someone's feeding rats to water.
Yeah.
Like these are.
They dedicated a cold open to it, so I mean, it can't be something
exactly.
that wasn't just a passing thing. I mean, if you put something in that cold open, to me, that's fairly significant. It's something that sticks in your brain. So I don't think it's something they can just bypass. But I feel like I don't know. I would have thought we would have had resolution to that by now, and I feel slightly cheated that this is carrying on. Unless now we could be sitting here at the end of the 16th episode, and I could be singing praises as to how awesome it was that they decided to go that route. But at this point, at this point, I'm a little skeptical.
There's so much time spent on this like little sub arc. Like it's even in, like the trailer for like the season. It's like someone's feeding these walkers. Like you hear that, like you know that there's like been a mole or something kind of going on inside.
No, they were rats.
Thank you. You know that something's been going on. It just feels like that's a lot of poor episode management to spend so much time on this aspect and just not pick it up at all.
I really like your idea that it's Carol covering up for the little girls. That would make much more sense as to why,
right?
As to why she did it, or why she would admit to doing it, and I mean, because she was doing it to protect those little girls. So that makes much more sense than probably what we're going to get to see in the show.
It really does. I really think if they wanted to set up Carol as this person that's so far gone that she just murdered people without questioning anybody, the episodes would have done a better job of making you appreciate the character and understand your choice, and not just having a whole episode devoted to. Guess what I did? Like I feel like it seems like that's the way it's going, and if it does, bravo to the show because you've won me over on this kind of plot arc. But we'll see, I guess.
So, like I said, explosions start happening, or a explosion at least there. We get many, many explosions in this episode. And so everybody rushes out front to see what's going on. A couple of them grab weapons, but they quickly see the governor standing on a tank, surrounded by trucks. It is a shot taken directly out of the comics. I actually take back what I said last week in the spoiler section when I said that there was probably more trucks in the comic. I think they actually had exactly the same amount. Like, it was pretty much identical to what the shot was in the books.
Yeah, there's a lot of screen comparisons I've seen online.
That was a wonderful shot. I love it when they can pay tribute to the comic so precisely with shot choice or composition or just elements that are definitely from the comic. I just love it when they can do that, and I'm glad they can do that this time.
It's amazing to me because usually we remark about how different the comic universe and the TV universe have become, but yet this episode has so many different callbacks and like references to the same event in the comic that in a lot of ways it remains faithful. Not maybe to the letter of it, but definitely the spirit of the event in the comic. You know what I mean?
And I don't know if you guys have seen the scenes for the second half of the season or whatever, but there are some elements in there that call to mind future where the comic went after this happened in the comic. It calls to mind the stories that happened in the comic, at least one or two. So I'm really happy with Scott Gimple because I think he's paying more respect to the comic than any of the previous showrunners did, and that's fine. But part of my excitement for the show was to see stuff in the comic come to life, and I think he's providing a lot of that.
And what's nice is he's getting us to those same places, but in very different ways. Like, we get the moments like the governor standing on a tank surrounded by pickup trucks, but the way we got there was very different. The outcomes, some of them were the same, but some of them were very different. Different characters died, different characters lived, etc. But we still get those moments and those feelings of nostalgia without having everything ruined for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was a line in this episode where the camera is tight on the governor's face and he says, "Kill them all," and that's just a shot directly out of the comic. That line especially was just really cool seeing that.
The same when Carl and Rick leave the prison at the end, and
Right.
he tells Carl, "Don't look back." That is word for word out of the comic. I think there's another line after it because there's something that was different in the books and the show, but that shot and the line is exactly the same.
Yeah, that was the one that really struck me. Was at the end of the episode. It's like, oh wow, I even got my companions out to check, to look that back up, and sure enough, it's exactly like Jordan said. The line is right out of the comic.
In terms of like visual familiarity and homage, like this episode got a lot of geek points for me for doing a lot of things that were straight out of the comics in terms of just frame by frame comparison stuff like that. And I mean, some of the stuff in the season in general has done that, and I would say that for the rest of the series. But yeah, this season and this episode particularly, I agree that it really, despite having different events having played their course, it had a lot of visual similarity that I really enjoyed picking up on. That was a cool aspect of this one.
So they meet the governor, and the governor gives his ultimatum: leave the prison by sundown, or I kill you all. And he tells Rick to make the decision, and Rick says, "I don't make decisions anymore. There's a council." At which point the governor brings out some of Rick's council, which includes Herschel, and I don't think Michonne was officially on the council, but she was kind of the bodyguard of the council, if you will. Brings them both out and shows that he has prisoners. And Rick, quickly, everybody's getting guns. Daryl's kind of distributing them as secretly as he can. And Rick says to the governor, "Look, finally he gets to the point where, look, we're not leaving, but we can all live here together. We can be peaceful. We can live in separate cell blocks. We'll never even see each other. If you say you've changed, same thing kind of that we saw with Herschel earlier. If you say you've changed, I've changed too. I'm a different person. I know we had our problems in the past, but nobody has to die. Either everybody's going to die here, or none of us have to make a smart decision." And he says the line where we get our episode title. We also, of course, get the episode title from the name of one of the trades, but he says, "We're not too far gone," which was something that was touched on in the very first episode of the season. And the governor looks at him and says, "Liar."
Wait. Thank you. I want to just say,
Go ahead.
When Rick says that, we can come back. I came back. We can all come back. It cuts to Herschel, and Herschel has this little grin on his face, like he realizes Rick believes it. Rick is back. I'm so happy for Rick that he is back. And if this is about to happen to me, what I think is about to happen, I'm glad Rick is back because this group needs that Rick. And of course, like you were going to say.
At that moment, the governor takes Michonne's katana and slices Herschel's neck. Everybody starts screaming and crying. Bullets start flying. Rick runs for the nearest cover. He gets shot in the leg, though, before he can even get there. Bullets are going everywhere. Michonne runs for cover. Not even runs, but she's tied up. She kind of tumbles and dodges for cover.
That's really cool. That's a really cool little move she kind of did to get away from.
It looked like she was breakdancing for cover.
Yeah, the breakdance fighting. And so everybody's going kind of crazy. Herschel starts crawling behind one of the vehicles. He's bleeding profusely from his neck. And the governor hunts him down with the katana and starts just whacking away at his neck and finally cuts his head clean off. And I think that's the moment when we should have cut back to another scene, but I forgot about it. Earlier on, while the standoff is happening, Lily is on top of one of their RVs in that kind of island area, and Megan's still playing in the mud. And Megan is saying, Mom, come play with me. But Lily's, understandably freaked out. It's just the two of them, so she keeps watching this river because she doesn't quite trust what the governor said about the zombies not being able to get across it. She sees the zombie come out of the woods, and she starts reaching for a gun. The zombie starts making its way slowly across the river, and she keeps getting more and more anxious. And finally, the zombie loses its footing, trips, falls into the river, and gets carried downstream. So Lily, it feels a little bit better.
You lose, Walker.
At that point, Megan digs out a sign from the mud that says, "Warning." Morning flash flood area, and we see a hand start to come up from the mud, a zombie that had been covered in mud last time there was flood, and it comes out, it grabs her, she starts screaming, her mother runs for her, and then I think this is the first time we've ever seen this in the show. A zombie bites a child. We've seen zombified kids, but we've never seen the bite that I can remember, unless you want to count Amy, Andrea's sister, but that's kind of on the borderline, and Megan is killed by the zombie.
I had a problem with this scene. The problem is that there's no way I would have felt comfortable with my child being 30, 40 yards away, nestled up against some woods. I would have had her right next to me or down on the ground right where I could hop off the top of the RV. I mean, with all the protection and precautions they've been taking, there's just no way any parent worth her salt would let her kid sit that far away from her.
Yeah, I had the same issue. To me, it was just from the get-go, it was so telegraphed.
Yes.
Of course. There's no way an adult's going to be able to get to that kid quickly enough, so you just know she's dead.
Yeah,
It goes back to what Jim was saying 2 episodes ago about the governor's kind of storyline being very obvious to him, because I agree with that a lot, because I feel like the second we meet this family, and you see the girl, you know she's going to have to die, because it's going to do something, it's going to involve its way in something into the governor's kind of life, and how he has this new connection that relates to Penny in some way. So here we go, we got this Megan girl, and of course, and she got attacked last episode too, like The Walking Dead hates little kids. That's what I said the second that zombie. That's what I first exclaimed. It's like, God, this show just hates little kids. It does not like them at all. They're just always except Carl.
And it's funny too, because that's what the governor told Michonne when he said he didn't have hate for her anymore. They did originally. He said, I knew Penny was dead. I knew, she wasn't coming back. So it was all the more reason I think that nothing good was going to happen moving forward.
Yeah, and is it tense? Yes, it's exciting to watch. This whole episode's very exciting to watch for what it's doing. But I mean, it's just you have some of these plot pieces that just kind of like, all right, the little girl's by herself in zombie woods area. Let's come on, what are we doing? After she attacked less than a day ago.
I think they could have done it in a way that was a little more natural and wasn't so telegraphed. Yeah. I mean, him putting the two of them by themselves, nobody else decided to stay. They're off, kind of doing their own thing, and she's so far away from her mother. I think they, like I said, could have done it in such a way that would have been a little more shocking and a little more surprising.
Although I gotta say, even if it was telegraphed, I still recoiled seeing a kid get bitten. That was, like I said, something we have not seen before, and it was messed up.
Yeah, exciting factor. Yeah, visceral, completely. I feel it. That's terrible. Sorry, mate.
So, cut back to the prison. The governor has just sliced off Herschel's head, and I believe that's the moment that Lily arrives on the scene, cradling the dead body of her daughter. The governor walks over, takes the daughter from her, looks sad for a moment, and then I would say he either goes to completely unfeeling or even almost a look of disgust on his face as he pulls out his pistol and shoots Megan in the head.
It was pretty coldly. Yeah, he just kind of like, well, that happened. Like, no time for this.
The look of just horror on Lily's face was awesome.
Well, I think once he made the decision to kill Herschel, he checked out. He was done. Any sense of morality, any sense of decency, any sense of humanity left him, and he was just, full on autopilot. And then I think to see the little girl, that just even if there was a shred left, it was absolutely gone then. So he's just, like I said, he's kind of on autopilot at this point.
I agree completely, and I wanted to just touch on something Jordan said when Rick was talking to the governor and the governor said liar. The way that they mixed that audio at that point, there was almost like a tunnel sound. There was some echo when he said liar. It was like it's just echoing inside his own head. And that to me was a clue that, okay, a switch went off in this guy's head just now.
It's very much, for anybody who's ever read any of the Redwall books, it's like when the Badgers go into their blood rage or whatever it's called, where, like you said, it's that tunnel vision, everything goes red more or less, and nothing is going to sway them from what they're doing. They're just mindless killing machines from that point on.
We haven't talked about too much, but hats off to Andrew Lincoln. I mean, that performance he gave, he was just like desperate when he was talking to the governor. I mean, you could see the desperation in his voice.
Yeah, very much so. I agree.
His acting has gotten better every single year.
Yeah.
And maybe he's always been a good actor because I've never seen him in anything before. But maybe it's like he's growing with the character as the character grows and changes. Maybe he's just really finding his way to do this character. But whatever it is, it's working.
That certainly seems the case for sure. Like, he's gotten. It's not that he's comfortable in the shoes of Rick. It's just more he's given more to do with him. Where like last season he had like the crazy Rick stage and the standoffish stage. Just like this season's really allowed him to grow in a way that works for the show and for him as an actor. And I think it's paid off tremendously.
I'd also say he plays desperation really well. So the worse the situation is you put him in, the better not the better obviously the character comes off, but the better he comes off as that character. Especially as we move later on into this episode, the worse things get for him, the more I buy his acting.
He plays confidence pretty well too when given the chance, which doesn't happen very often because it's such a downer show for the most part. But like remember like Nebraska, like that whole conversation he had at the bar with whatever Rick and Terry, whatever their names were, like
Joey and Tito or whatever, something
Joey
like
and Tito, yeah.
Joey and Tito.
I mean, he certainly. I mean, I think Andrew Lincoln because Rick on the show is just not the most interesting character to me, but I think he's done such a great job of making it work this season, where he has risen to the ranks of the people like Scott Wilson and Norman Reedus who've been consistently good on the show.
So, like we said, the bullets are flying, the explosions are happening from the tank. I think we mentioned it in the spoiler section from last week, but the tank in the comics, it was a tank, yes, but they didn't have anybody who knew how to use it. And that's a big difference for here in the show, which is awesome. So we've got the tank blowing things up, we've got people shooting, people dying, zombies are being drawn in by all the noise, everybody's running around like chickens with their heads cut off, just trying to get to safety. We learned earlier before the shooting happened that the prison does have an escape plan, which is basically when things are at the breaking point, everybody runs to the specific bus, we all get on the bus, we all drive for safety. So they start trying to do that as much as possible. Everyone's grabbing whatever they can and heading for the bus, including the little kids who I've dubbed, as I said earlier, Rufia and the Lost Girls, who are carrying around baby Judith in her, what do you call that, just a baby carrier? Is there a name for that? Car seat, yes. Yeah. Carrying her around in the car seat, which is kind of funny because it's as big as they are, when Lizzie, Rufia says, we should got to do what Carol told us to do. We've got to be strong. Everybody else has guns. We should have guns too. And we'll get back to that later, but it's kind of creepy.
Okay. Is that it? There's a lot to cover. Can we back up a little bit more?
The bus.
Before
bullets, tank, explosions.
As the speech is going on, it's about the walkers. Now I understand that Carl and Rick, they cleared out a lot of walkers the last time we saw them. But there were no walkers at all during this Governor Rick showdown, right?
2 or 3. Because he shoots them.
I mean, for weeks on this, since the season started, walkers have been infesting the fences of this prison, but they're just completely gone during this whole standoff, which is kind of something that threw me.
Even with all the noise.
Yeah. All the noise, like a tank rolled up. Like, that's noise. Like regardless if the tank shoots or not, a tank rolled up.
The other thing that I thought was funny is, and it didn't really detract from me from the show, but I just thought it was funny, is all of these people seem to be able to shoot a walker in the head from like 1,000 yards.
Yeah, the actors.
But they're 100 feet from each other, and nobody's getting shot. I just thought it was kind of
like Carl and Daryl are like the best shots ever, and they're like getting anything in this episode.
Yeah.
Like people are like 2 feet away from them.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Well, people can move fast, the zombies can't.
And even the governor misses it. Well, he doesn't miss a headshot, but he only takes out the jaw for one of the zombies.
I mean, Rick was standing right there. None of them could hit him as he ran for a bus. Like,
that's because he knows to zigzag.
I guess so. So the fastest legs in the East, I guess.
So there's I'm going to try to go through this as best I can, but there's a lot of cutting back and forth, so bear with me. There's, like I said, there's just pandemonium everywhere. People are running for the bus. Some people get on the bus, they get to the bus, they realize certain other people aren't on the bus, so they get off to search for those people. Maggie gets off to search for Glenn. I think there's a couple other situations as well. So everybody's running around looking for everybody, trying to get on the bus. Maggie and Glenn finally get back, and they're just about to get on the bus. I think Glenn even does get on, and Maggie goes back to look for Beth, who's now disappeared, and by the time they get back, the bus pulls away without them. So there's group number 1 of survivors who we don't see for the rest of the episode.
So who's on
people on the bus?
Who's on the bus? Is anyone Glenn on the bus? That's it.
Glenn and a bunch of red shirts.
As far as the main cast goes, Glenn's the only one that's on the bus.
Yes.
Okay.
You mean as of this point in the episode, or as of the end of the episode?
I think as of the end, because the bus pulls away, like, after he gets on and Maggie leaves.
Yeah, we don't see the bus again for the rest of the episode.
Well, there may be somebody else on it, but we just don't see him.
That's true.
For instance, you haven't gotten to this part, but we don't know where Michonne is. The last time we see Michonne, she's helping Rick up off the ground. He says, "Where's Carl?"
Although I think that's after the bus pulls away.
Yeah, the bus is gone at that point.
I think the bus is gone at that point, yeah.
She's going to get a horse. That's where she's going.
The point is we don't know where she is because the last time we saw her she was with Rick.
Correct, yes.
She's got to get the horse.
So everybody starts shooting everybody. The governor takes the tank, or orders the tank to plow down the fences. The trucks following behind them. Everybody starts marching in. People are getting shot, mostly red shirts, or all red shirts. Zombies are coming in slowly but surely. And let's see what happens next. I guess Daryl is fighting a bunch of them. He's kind of pinned down. It looks like he's going to get bit by a zombie at one point. We cut away quickly. When we come back, he has killed the zombie, and he's now using it as an inhuman shield, if you will, to take down a bunch of people around inside the tank. He uses a grenade. I don't know if we've seen him use a grenade recently, but he uses one grenade to attack a group of people, and then he eventually destroys the tank by dropping a grenade down the cannon.
Like the whole Daryl stuff is like a bunch of women got very silent as walkers approach behind him. And the next thing he has the walker in his hands, and he's like battling. It's like, and then the whole women are cheering. Like it's just like Daryl is amazing in this episode. Like everyone has reason to be like very silent and then cheer just tremendously for every action that he takes in here. It's ridiculous.
As unbelievable as it was, like, okay, he's got his body in front of him as a shield. It's like, these are high-powered rifles. It's like, these bullets aren't going to go through and hit him, but you don't care because it's Daryl being awesome. So,
Kill the tank.
He killed the tank with a grenade. All right, come on.
Kill the tank with bare hands.
Look, the simple answer to all of this discussion is Daryl's a badass. It's plain and simple.
Exactly.
Every show like this needs a badass.
He doesn't have time to get shot.
No, he ain't got time to bleed.
Daryl chooses class because he likes the taste.
He failed recess in school because he don't play.
That's a good one.
I have never heard that in my life.
That's a good one.
Kudos, sir.
But yeah, like, he kills a tank. Like, that's what Daryl does now.
And after he throws the
Wait,
grenade,
I'm sorry. Did anybody else? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When he whipped out that grenade, did anybody else think of that line in Anchorman where Ron Burgundy says,
Yes.
"Where did you get a grenade?"
I thought about that. I think there's
Yeah.
gonna be like a post-campfire discussion about this giant like grenade on the prison. He's like, "Where'd you get a hand grenade?" He's like, "I don't know. I just pulled it out." Like,
Yeah. I stabbed a guy and I killed a tank with a grenade.
So before the tank explodes, but after Daryl drops a grenade in, Kirk Acevedo, whose character I want to say his name's Charlie, but I just remember that's his character from Fringe. What was
Yes.
what was his name?
It was you mean in Fringe?
No, on the show.
Oh, the jerk guy, Mitch.
Yeah, Mitch. Yes, Mitch jumps out of the tank, and he starts to look like he's maybe going to surrender, maybe going to kill Daryl, and Daryl has no time for that, and he shoots him with his crossbow.
That made me happy. I hated that guy.
Yeah, he plays a good jerk.
Almost as much as Tara.
He was wonderful in Fringe. I really liked his character.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it was difficult to watch him in these couple episodes.
Meanwhile, Tyrese has been moving from kind of place to place, getting firing pot shots, taking out a lot of red shirts. Actually, I think he probably had the best kill count ratio for the entire group.
And he's like the worst shot in the show, which is like, what the hell's going on with Anderson?
See, they gave him special bullets that were tiny hammers, and when he hit hammers, he's fine.
Oh, okay.
Since I haven't been on the podcast for this season, can I just say something about Tyrese real quick?
Absolutely, sir.
Sure.
I'm very disappointed in TV show Tyrese. He's not anything like the comic book Tyrese, and if he had died in this episode, I would not have missed him.
Now, Brad, do you say that because he's not the badass that you're used to him being, or just he's just off in general, or what?
The Tyrese that I knew and that I expected to see. Okay, let me back up. The Rick that we knew and we expected to see when the show started, we got it. Okay, the Shane that we knew and expected to see, we got him. But the Tyrese that we knew and expected to see, we didn't get. It was like a different personality. He, like you said, he was not a badass. He was a scaredy cat, sissy baby, and I think it was a disservice to that character.
So, yeah, but with Rick, I wouldn't necessarily agree. I don't think we got the Rick we've had in the comic until more or less recently, or at least in various bits and pieces. Like, it didn't start out the way, I don't think we got certain characters right away, and I think Tyrese is kind of falling in that way too, where you have this, because you have the whole governor thing, you have these different elements that kind of shift around how these characters act. We haven't had enough time, I think, to get to the Tyrese of the comics, which has gone along with some other characters.
The Tyrese in the comics started out as a badass.
Yeah, and I would say the same for some other characters as well, but some of them haven't started out that way, but they've gotten to that point eventually.
Well, I'm talking about Tyrese. And in my two examples, my opinion is that Rick started out in the show as Rick started out in the comic. You know, he's changed in the show, yes, but he also changed in the comic. And I think they've paralleled that nicely. But Tyrese, who I was really looking forward to, I just think they mishandled him from the get-go in the TV show. And it was a little disappointing.
Do you think maybe it's because Norman Reedus, like the Daryl character, has kind of taken that role of lead badass, and that maybe if they portrayed Tyrese as that second alpha male, that those two strong, physical characters would just clash, or maybe not sit right with the audience, or leave it unbalanced, maybe?
I think that's a possibility, but I think that's a pretty lame excuse.
And that's fair enough. I mean, I think it's hard because if you introduce a character just as a badass, like think about how when we first had the show, yes, she was awesome in her ability to kill things, but she wasn't much of a character, and it took them a long time to get her to where she is this season, where, she can smile and have emotions other than death glare. And maybe, this is just me guessing, but maybe they were worried about doing the same thing with Tyrese. Now, granted, he was also introduced under the last showrunner, etc. But I'm fine with giving him time. I mean, obviously his story in the show is going to be very different than it was in the comic. I don't want to spoil things from the comic, but let's just say he's not around in the comic anymore, and he hasn't been around in the comic for a very long time. So they've got a lot of room for him here. They introduced him later than they would have in the book, or than they did in the book, and they're going to dispatch of him later on in the show than they did in the book. So I'm fine giving him time to become that character. I don't know.
And there are different means of who he's with in the show versus the comic as well, and what changes in that manner.
Yes, which we can get into in our spoiler section, because some people have postulated some very interesting ideas about where he might go in the second half of the season.
Well, comic Tyrese too is also like Rick's sounding board. Is like almost like his Will Riker to Rick's Picard. He's like the person he bounces ideas off of and kind of keeps Rick in check. And I think that part of Tyrese is taken by Herschel in the show. I mean, Herschel's kind of half Dale from the comics, half Tyrese, in some ways.
That's
And
a good
all
point, Jim.
beard.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of you can't have too many similar personality types, or else there's nothing to there's no way to bounce things off each other. It just kind of all falls flat. So it's a sacrifice of a certain understanding of how a character was in one format versus another. But at the same time, you have to kind of do the best you can with what you got based on the context of how you got there. I understand the complaint because Tyrese isn't my favorite character. I'm not completely disappointed with how he's been portrayed. He's certainly different. I agree with that. It's that much. But
For me, it's almost like if you're not going to use that character to the full potential, which that was established in the comic, then why introduce him at all?
Well, and it's funny because my issues with Tyrese, I don't think are biased for a change. I think there's a lot of things in the show that are biased by have read the comic, and I think my issues with Tyrese aren't biased by the comic. I think they just didn't sit right with me. I mean, we talked about that on previous shows. I mean, just his reaction to when I forget what her name is, the girlfriend,
Karen.
Lily.
Karen.
Oh,
Yeah,
Karen, sorry, yes.
yeah, when she was, when she died and everything that happened, I just didn't find that a natural progression for that character. But I think that's more my issue than necessarily him compared to his comic counterpart.
with that said, him being kind of stubborn and having a short temper does seem kind of in line with the comic version of Tyrese.
Yeah, but I
I
don't know.
agree
Some
with
read
that
that
because
just
we both have the same problems with that.
Yeah,
and that's just more of how the show is handling it, not in terms of like
Right.
what it is. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Tyrese gets saved.
Well, so Tyrese has been doing very well, but he's kind of separated from the rest of the group, and he has to keep running from cover to cover. He eventually gets pinned down, and looks like he's going to be killed. I believe by Alicia, wasn't it? Tara's
Yeah,
girlfriend?
Tara's stupid girlfriend. Yeah.
So Alicia's about to shoot him when I think, or her and another person are about to shoot him. When the other person gets shot, Alicia looks over to see who's doing the shooting, and it is Rufia and the Lost Girls. It's Lizzie. Lizzie shoots her in the head, and bye-bye Alicia.
She destroyed her. It was a great shot. Oh my god.
And the look of
pretty awesome
surprise
moment.
on everybody's face was awesome.
Yeah, that was a pretty awesome moment, I thought.
As much problems as I've had with Lizzie's character this season, just the way it's been written, I think the acting is more or less fine, but that was a really cool moment.
It was. I was like, yeah, all right. She did it.
Now put that gun down right now before you do something else awesome or potentially terrible.
I expected Tyrese to say that. Thanks, but now put the gun on the ground, please.
And see, with the potential of Lizzie being the one that's like causing problems with the rats and stuff, it seems like really neat that if Tyrese is the one that takes these girls in, and she's the one responsible for killing Karen, and then Karen, like there's so many different possibilities that we could get to later on in the season based on just a theory that is going around right now.
I just hope it doesn't turn into a Shakespearean farce, because those get old really quickly.
That's I need to back up because I really hate Tara. I don't have to mention that at all.
Now, well, let me back up even before you back up
Okay.
and say the last thing we saw of Tara was Alicia telling her, if we get separated, just run, I'll meet up with you. And Tara, despite the fact that she puts on a big front, and we kind of suspect this in the beginning, she's all talk and no game. And when everybody starts shooting, she quickly, kind of buckles under the pressure and eventually runs away. She just cannot handle the pressure.
Yeah, I really hope she's gone at that point because it's not just like the character. I don't like the actress that plays Tara. I don't really like the performance at all.
Which is funny because it's Elena Masterson, who is the sister, I guess, of the Masterson brother, like Danny Masterson, who was in that 70s show for a long time. And then the other brother was on, Malcolm in the Middle.
The older
yeah,
brother, yeah.
the older brother, yeah. The one that was in military school.
See, I have no problems with her. I find her kind of adorable, so I don't know. I do not have the same problems with her that you do.
I don't know, like it just stuck out to me. The first episode, the first one with the governor, she was on. I was like, I don't care about this person, and she just, I had another actress who I thought was the worst one on the show, and now this one's come along, and it's been an issue for me.
So she's the Sky of The Walking Dead. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, that's a whole other can of worms I don't need to open right now.
So Alicia's dead. Tara's has run away. Tyrese and the girls seem to have run off together. The little girls. He's going to take them to safety. And Bob, Sasha, and another character. Where's the name here?
Maggie.
And Maggie. They are also in another group that kind of gets separated. So we've got a lot of disparate groups by the end of this episode. But those are kind of some of the big main ones who have separated off.
Beth and Daryl also run off together.
That's right. Beth and Daryl.
Oh, there's a comic.
And then, of course, well, go ahead.
So then finally, the governor is making his way up to the prison. And this kind of, again, like I said, we're coming back and forth between 100 different things going on. But the governor is making his way up to the prison when Rick jumps out from behind his cover after the rest of the troops have already gone past. So the governor and the Rick are able to have a really long, and I thought pretty well done, just beat down, mano a mano, fisticuffs, getting as good as they're getting, just back and forth, until finally the governor has Rick on the ground, and he is, for all intents and purposes, strangling him to death. And I thought the governor was great here, Dave Morrissey was great doing this, Andrew Lincoln is Rick. I really believed that the guy, I didn't obviously believe Rick was going to die, but aside from knowing that Rick's not going to die, I totally believe the governor was seconds away from fully killing him here.
I wasn't so convinced. I thought for a minute, I was like, maybe they're going to be really bold and off Rick here too, because he looked like he was about 2 seconds away from not coming back. So I thought that was very well played.
That would have been 26 busters for me if that happened.
I'm waiting for the internet meme to come out where they put the Star Trek battle music behind that fight.
I'll let it back together over the next couple days.
A lot of people punching each other.
Rick never makes any gunpowder out of rocks, so we'll be missing that. But anyway, so the governor is just about to kill Rick when Michonne, in the best timed and best measured stab of her time ever, because she went about an inch further and Rick would be dead too, she stabs the governor through the chest and saves Rick's life just in the nick of time.
So one of the other things that kind of made me laugh a little bit was the governor had to hack to get Herschel's head off. Yet we've seen Michonne with like one arm, lop zombies' heads off like it's butter. So I thought that was just kind of funny. And I know
Three words. Hittori Hanzo sword.
Russ, remember, Michonne, she broke her ankle or whatever, and was still doing push-ups in the prison while she was healing. I mean, she's
True, yeah.
What's the governor doing? Walking around lazily with a beard? Like, that's not exercise.
It's all about upper arm strength.
Yeah, she's about 110% muscle.
Yeah, that's true.
So the governor is just kind of mostly dead. Not quite dead yet, but he's mostly dead. And Michonne doesn't even do him the courtesy of finishing him off. She's done with him. She helps Rick get to safety. And I believe that's the last time we see Michonne in the episode.
Yeah.
I'm convinced she didn't finish him off because she wants him to turn. She wants him to suffer, and she wants him to feel what it's like to become a zombie.
And maybe turn him into the next one of her pets.
Yeah.
Either that, or she knew he would get eaten, which would suck just as much.
Or she had seen the end of the script and knew what happened next.
Yeah, I was kind of there too. I kept saying him again because I'm like, God, I don't want this guy to just disappear and come back again at this inconvenient time. Like,
Season 6, the governor's back.
It's like the Joker or something.
So yeah, this next scene happens. Let's do that because I like that.
So I don't know which, again, this is all mixed up, so I don't know which scene you think I'm going to next. But Rick runs back up to the prison to find Carl and Judith, and he's yelling for him. He looks like he's about to get eaten by a zombie because he is about, again, even though he's not being choked anymore, he looks like he could keel over and die at any moment. And 2 zombies come out after Rick, and he looks like he's about to be bitten. When Carl saves the day, he comes out, he shoots the zombies and saves his dad. And the 2 of them start looking for Judith when they find her car seat empty and covered in blood. And the 2 of them are obviously very upset by this. And I thought seeing both of them portrayed it very well, with just crying and sobbing. And again, Rick, when he's at his most broken down, Andrew Lincoln plays him the best.
I mean, it's more of Rick negotiating against Rick. That's the Rick I think he plays best. Rick crying, I think I see all the time. It's just like, yeah, right, there it is again.
But this was the first time we've seen Carl cry, I think.
Yeah.
Except maybe when his mom died, I don't remember. But
Yeah,
he really
he was pretty stoned when he had to kill his mom, actually.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned that. Like, he's pretty like, yeah, I did that. It's a little upsetting.
So I think it shows how Carl has changed and grown over the last season, over the break, as it were.
He's soft.
Yeah. I thought it was an awesome scene. I mean, I just my heart was breaking for them. Although I don't buy for a second that Judith is dead, but that's just me.
Me neither.
No, not at all.
I'm hoping somebody, that was shot, or maybe what's his face, Bob, that got shot. Maybe
Bob Suki?
Yeah, maybe he picked her up because he was bleeding, and that's what all the blood was from, or something like that. I'm sure we'll see that.
We then cut back to the governor, who, like you said, he's bleeding out. He's in the field. He's kind of crawling a little bit when, from the haze, because I think it's a little bit out of focus at first, just to show you his point of view, up walks Lily, and she is pissed. She takes out a pistol, and she shoots the governor in the head. So he is for sure gone now.
Good
He is
stuff.
done.
Good scene.
No governor season 6.
Good scene.
Well, we didn't actually see him get shot in the head. All we saw was the pistol.
But isn't it from his point of view, and then doesn't it cut to black after the gunshot?
Yeah, but didn't they cut the Sopranos to black, and you don't know if what's his face is alive or not?
Well, he hasn't come back.
Well, neither has the show.
Too soon?
Oh, that's
assuming-
true. I was not trying to make a James Gandolfini joke. My apologies to his family.
I'm assuming that the governor's dead as well, but you never know, man. You can't just assume anything.
Like comics, no body, no death.
Right.
I certainly don't think the gunshot made him better. Let's just put it that way.
Maybe Judith crawled over to him and saved him.
I'm just saying what somebody's thinking out there.
No, I appreciate it.
There's some WTV podcast listening that's screaming, Brad's so right now!
That probably happens more often than you realize, Aaron.
And the person usually screaming is Brad.
Yeah, it's me when I'm listening to
It's
my
him
own.
at home listening to his
Yeah.
podcast.
This guy is so good.
I can just see him in his
Wow.
truck. He's got at least one of his daughters there. He's just pointing at the radio. You hear that guy? He's right on the money.
Somebody agrees with me.
Tell him like it
Trying
is.
to impress people. Listen to this guy.
Sorry. So for the final scene of the episode, we cut back to Rick and Carl again. They're just racked with grief. They're making their way away from the prison, crawling up the hill. So you can see the burning prison in the background, just smoke everywhere and fire everywhere. As zombies move in, we actually see one of the zombies moving in towards the prison is Clara from the first episode, the Irish woman who killed herself.
Yeah.
And Rick tells Carl, "Don't look back, keep walking." And,
Is that who that was?
Yes, it was.
That's why they focused on her. Oh,
I
that's
totally
cool.
didn't catch that.
No, that's a really cool thing.
I
And to be fair, I did not
very-
realize who it was on first blush, although I did know. I know I'm supposed to know who it is, but later on I realized.
Yeah, when they focused on her, I was like, okay, obviously they're focusing on her for a reason. I mean, she's not. There's nothing odd about her that would explain if this is the first time we've seen her why they're focusing on her. But
Because she had a sweet jacket.
yeah, that's what it was. But knowing that that's who that is, that's really cool.
Yeah, I had to rewind because I was like, wait a minute. We spent far too much time looking at this person. I realized, like, oh, okay, then I saw it. And the credits happened. I was like, okay, Carrie Condon. Okay, I got it.
Oh, was it actually the actress?
Yeah, Carrie Condon. It was in the...
I thought it was just some random zombie
Yeah,
made up to look like her.
Yeah, they had her in there because that was like my secondary confirmation. Like, okay, good, yeah, they brought her back in or at least filmed her scene or whatever. So.
That's really cool that they would actually bring her back just to play the zombie. Although maybe they shot it along with that first episode. But either way, so yeah, Rick and Carl go into the woods. Don't look back. Keep walking. It's directly out of the comics, and that is the mid-season finale of season 4 of The Walking Dead.
gotta say, comic-wise, the next couple stories in the comics that follow the kind of prison breakup are some of my favorite of the whole Walking Dead series. So I'm excited to see where it goes from there.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff in that area.
Yeah, some good Carl stuff.
And just in case people are wondering, issue number 48 that you've heard us mention on this show in years past is where what we just talked about was where that happens in the comic, which is the end of hardcover book 4, if memory serves.
Or if you have the compendium, the final issue in there.
Yes, that's
Or
true.
trade number 8.
Yes. Yes. Or issue 48.
Right.
Or if you have the deluxe omnibus hardcover, the end of volume 2.
The point is, there's a lot of ways to get The Walking Dead, and you should check out at least one of them.
Since we have passed a major milestone, in the comic, is it okay to make a couple of comparisons with the story?
Let's do it in the spoiler section.
That's fine.
Yeah. Just because again, I don't want to spoil anybody. Maybe we even do a two-part spoiler section: one for what we expect for the second half of the season, and one for what was different between this and the comics.
We got some time off in between episodes, so we can plenty to do.
That's true. So before we get into our busters for the mid-season finale, Russ, who is our sponsor this week?
Our sponsor for this episode of the Walking Dead TV podcast is Discount Comic Book Service. That's DCBService.com, where you can get tons of great deals on your comics, graphic novels, t-shirts, all kinds of cool stuff that you can order through the previews catalog. Also, don't forget, if you are into digital comics, you can link up your Comixology account through the DCB Service website and earn 5% back towards a future purchase. So if you have that awesome hardcover you've been jonesing for and aren't a monthly comic person, or you just get Walking Dead in the trade, but there are some digital comics out there that you dabble in, maybe some of the digital first stuff from some of the publishers that doesn't see print quite as often, you can buy your stuff there, get 5% back, and then when you place your order, you got a nice little credit there waiting for you. Some of the specials this month are Walking Dead 121 and 122, which for I think the next 2 months, Walking Dead is going semi-monthly because it's that all-out war arc that's going on. So big doings happening in the comic book. A lot of parallels, honestly, to the Governor saga. So if you like a lot of the stuff going on that you've seen in the show and have read the book, you might want to check that out.
Yeah, if you think the Governor is a crazy person after watching these last 2 seasons, the main villain right now makes him look like Barney the dinosaur.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that same thing. When we started this podcast, who are the 2 people that we mentioned over and over again that we clamored for wanting to see? It was the Governor and Michonne. Well, I can't wait till they get to this guy. I just can't wait.
But you're supposed to.
And he's
I really
kind-
hate him.
I never thought anybody could rival the Governor for status of ultimate villain, but holy crap.
He's a whole different kind of crazy.
Oh yeah.
This character is. Anyway, so definitely check that out. Some of the other specials going on. DCB Service has the new Marvel Now bundle coming out, where you can get all of the new, the next wave of Marvel Now titles in a bundle for 50% off. So you could pay, instead of $114.70 for all of those titles, you only pay $57.35. And there's a whole bunch of good new number ones coming out from Marvel in this month's solicitations as well. Don't forget all of the DC, the newly solicited hardcovers and paperbacks are all 50% off as well. A book specifically that I'd like to shout out this month from Image that is celebrating its 4th issue is Rick Remender and Mateo Scalera's Black Science, which we've read the number 1, some of us, that came out a couple weeks ago. Fantastic series. The art is spectacular, so you might want to give Black Science a read. Again, DCBService.com, we thank them for their support of the Walking Dead TV podcast.
Absolutely. So, gentlemen, what are your buster ratings for this episode?
I gave this episode 3 busters out of 5, and it's because I didn't really get into this all that much, but I really am just not on board with the Governor, and because of that, it just doesn't make me appreciate kind of the stakes that are going on here. As in terms of entertainment value, I was certainly having a lot of fun watching this episode, and Herschel dying is that's a very sad thing among the other things that happened in this episode. But I don't have much of anything that makes me appreciate the Governor's presence on the show, and the 2 episodes devoted to him didn't help with that. So because of that, it just took away from the impact it was having with me on this episode overall, despite a lot of crazy things that did go on. So yeah, I went 3 busters.
5 busters, solid 5. Loved it. I mean, it's what I want from a Walking Dead episode. I want blood and guts and explosions and guns and zombies and crazy kills and terror. It had everything. I loved it.
I give it a 4.5, and it just I really appreciated how it goes its own way in the TV continuity, but it also had some really cool allusions to things that happened in the comic and scenes that came right out of the comic, but the story was quite different. I really liked that. Appreciated about it. I'm the same boat with Aaron. I thought the whole redemption storyline for the Governor was kind of a waste of time, especially considering this episode. But I did like the way this played out. So 4.5 for me.
I also give it 4.5. I think I tried to take this episode and judge it on its own merit and not based on the things that came before it or my opinions on that. So I thought it was a solid episode. I thought it was pretty well directed. I thought it was pretty well written. I thought the performances were excellent, especially the Rick stuff. It was just really heart-wrenching. And then even Maggie and Beth's reaction after Herschel was killed. My heart just kind of I felt it. It had that emotional pull. And I think that's definitely praiseworthy in any kind of visual medium. If it can make you react emotionally or react in a specific way. So I thought all that was well done. I mean, the only negatives I would say are just I wish that we didn't have what happened at the end of season 3. I wish they would have just stretched out the Woodbury part, and if this would have been the end of the Woodbury part, and they could have restructured that somewhat to make this happen. Because I just feel like having him go away, devoting 2 episodes for him to come back, and then have him just be kind of killed off at the end of this, I just felt like that was just lost ground. And we ended season 3 and then this half season with this big confrontation with the Governor. Now, granted, this is the confrontation to end all confrontations, but I just felt like there was a lot of spinning of wheels. And given that these are 16 episode seasons, they're split into 8 episode parts, I would have liked for it to use that time gaining more ground than to just kind of rehash. It's almost like they weren't happy with the way that things had to go at the end of Woodbury and said, okay, well let's do it over. Let's have another confrontation and let this one be even more spectacular than the last. Which sounds like I'm maybe being more negative than my rating shows, but like I said, overall I'm very happy with how this went.
I totally agree with you, Russ. I think that would have worked out a lot better than them trying to, them having the Governor go away and then them having to, try force his, well, maybe he's actually not all bad. Look, he's reformed. He's changed his name, and all this other stuff. I think it would have been better if they'd done it your way and just had this be the final confrontation.
Yeah, I just wish Martinez should have shot him at the end of season 3. That would have just been. I would have been happy with that. No, just don't deal with this at all. Could have gone either way.
I am friendly with Brad on this one. I also give the episode a 5. I really did enjoy it. And granted, Brad and I are the only 2 of us who really liked the Governor storyline these last 2 episodes previous to this one. But for me, it just all worked. Would I have preferred having this be the showdown that ended season 3? I think I would agree to that. I think rather than doing this, circuitous route to get to it, that would have been better. But I was happy with what we did get, especially considering season 3 was already in the can. There's nothing they could really do at the point that the new showrunner came on. So for what they gave us to get there, I was happy with it, and I was really happy with this ending as well. I'm a little worried that going forward into the second half, it might feel like a rehash of the beginning of season 3 with the group separated and everything like that. But I'm not going to hold that against this episode because we'll wait to see how it actually actually plays out. So for what was actually on screen for this episode, 5 out of 5 for me. I loved
You
it.
say that, but I mean, the beginning of season 3 is my favorite stretch of the series. I mean, the first half of season 3 is probably has a lot of my favorite episodes in there, with the exception of Clear, I guess. I mean, I like seeing that disarray in action and everything.
But not the Andrea and Michonne stuff.
In the beginning, it wasn't too much of a problem. It was in the middle where it became all like, here's the same thing again. Like,
I guess that's fair. That's fair.
Well, and to the credit of the comics, I mean, without getting specific, there's been many times where they kind of had to regroup or move on or reorient themselves. So
Yeah,
that doesn't bother.
Yeah,
I mean, that doesn't bother me so much because that's just kind of the way things are. I mean, as soon as they get comfortable in one place, something really bad happens and they move on. And so, like I said, that doesn't put me off at all.
Jim, what did our listeners on Facebook think? And we should mention before we get into mentioning the Walking Dead Facebook group, which you should definitely check out because it is awesome. We're almost to 500 members, and when we get to 500 members, Jim has already said that there's going to be giveaways, so search for Walking Dead TV on Facebook. But besides from that, we just launched anew the HHWLOD Podcast Network Facebook page. So head over to Facebook, search for HHWLOD, and give that brand new group a like. It's growing strong already, and we'd like it to be even stronger.
And keep an eye on it because there's a lot of cool giveaways. I know Johnny M is throwing out a lot of digital codes for various movies that he's picking up. I think the rest of us will probably jump in there from time to time as well. So there'll be some cool giveaways if you're quick on the draw on checking out that Facebook page.
Plus, it's a great way to keep up on all of our podcasts that we have in the network, since there's so many different things going on that we can have the one clearinghouse on Facebook for all of our outgoing episodes as we post them. So definitely want to keep up with that. But the Walking Dead TV podcast group is very vocal and very active, and I have a lot of things to say about this episode. Michael Santana gave it 5 repaired prison finales out of 5. Gimbo, I never doubted you. Total lie. I was worried. Things are looking up for our favorite show. Brian Frederick, 4.75 Spaghetti Tuesdays on Wednesdays. Going to miss you, Herschel. I could not agree more, Brian. 4.5 Emmys for Scott Wilson from Brian Arnold. A great episode. The comic readers have been wanting since the series debuted. I'm very curious to see where the show goes now. Our old friend Chub Toad Sheldon gave it 4.75 Herschel's wise words out of 5. It would have been a 5 out of 5, but they killed off Herschel. Newt Knight, 5 out of 5, ranks up there with Sophia coming out of the barn. Has Mac 4.5 bad parental decisions out of 5. The only thing stopping him from 5 was the way the little girl got bit and the girl's leaving the baby. Everard Santa Maria, 5. The kids are all right, but Psycho's out of 5. We also have Trisha Carol Collins coming out as a Downton Abbey fan on the Busters thing, so she's been officially outed. Terry Bernard gives a 4.5 out of 5. Really like the episode. Things got pretty intense. 5 out of 5 from Sarah Ann Howard. So well done. Love Scott Gimple. Glad the governor is wrapped. Can't see how they dive into the next part. 5 Headless Herschels out of 5 from Roger Austin. 4.9 1 impaled one eyebrows out of 5 from Craig DeMonda. Herschel was an honorable character that received an honorable death. Sad to see him go, but it was an amazing way to do it. Lisa Gonzalez, 5 out of 5 Herschel's heads. Darrell Taylor, I give 3 Rick needs to stop being punk busters out of 5. The episode felt like it was done to move the group to the next place. That's interesting because most people are giving it a straight up 5 out of 5, including Mary Turpecchia, Brett Jones, Max Sofer, a lot of other people. Even Renee Alvarado usually hates the show. Best episode yet. 5 little gangbangers bucking shots. Alternately 5 Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb looking zombies. I missed that one.
As did I, but that's awesome. They actually had lookalikes for
I'll
him.
have to go in and double check that because I remember them from Zombie Network G4.
X-Play for the win.
5 it's only a Flesh Wound Monty Python references out of 5 for Michonne stabbing the governor, no doubt. So mostly 5 out of 5. So everybody seemed to really enjoy this episode except for a few people.
Me and Daryl.
Yep, that's about it.
I gotta say, I mean, someone mentioned the Sophia walking out of the barn thing, and that's pretty much dead already. That's an episode where I had a similar reaction, where I think it certainly gets you to the emotional place you need to be in terms of horrible things happening, and there's a lot of big action, it looks great, it's really well filmed and all that. But that same episode also had like Dale stealing guns and hiding them in the woods, just kind of dumb stuff like that, which is kind of what I saw in some of this episode, where I just the whole let's roll a tank to the prison, that will solve problem. Like just these issues that come up that kind of go against other things that I appreciate about the episode, which is why I rate it lower, because I want to like it. I like the show in general. I'm not gonna stop watching it. I think the actors are doing a fine job. I think the action involving zombies is always well done. There's a lot of things I want to enjoy. Herschel's a great character, and I'm sad that he's gone. So when there's other things that are lesser than that for me, it makes it like I have to judge it that way. I can't just love everything all the time. I have to be fair to myself and like why I'm appreciating things about the show and what I want to say about it. So.
That's totally valid opinion. I mean,
yeah. It's like I don't want to come up as like I'm purposely trying to be negative. Like I had issues, and so I got to bring them up in some way.
Well, gentlemen, do we have anything else before we close this out and head into our extended spoiler section?
Nope, I'm good. I think we got 2 months off, so I think we'll be having plenty of time to reflect back on the first half of the season, probably have some more feedback from listeners, maybe solicit some more feedback so we can kind of have some conversation and discussion on the show. So I think I'm good for now.
Yeah, we should mention we got another voicemail for this week, but we're going to save it for another episode in the future where we play some various voicemails and emails and discuss the first half of the season in total. So yeah, we're going to close out the episode now, but we're going to have a twofold spoiler section, one where we look at the second half of the season and kind of postulate what we think might happen in that second half, and also where we talk about what was different in this mid-season finale from the same storyline in the comic. But before we get to that, if you'd like to leave us a voicemail, and we'd love you to do it, like we said, we're going to get to those voicemails very soon in the mid-season break, you can do so at our brand new HHWLOD Podcast Network phone line. That's 972-798-3830, 972-798-3830. Just say in the voicemail that you're leaving for the Walking Dead TV podcast, and it will get to us. You can also leave us an email, comments at walkingdeadtv.com, and you can send us a text email or send us an MP3 there if you'd rather send a voicemail that way. Check out all of our great shows at hhwlod.com. Half Hour Wasted, The Long Box of Doom, Black Box, At Mouth, Aaron Abe, Jersey Shore, The Ichabod Crane Cast, hosted by our good friend Aaron here, and the Shield Podcast with Brad, John, and Russ, and that's always a lot of fun as well. Sometimes even Ken, or at least once Ken. And all those shows can be found on Facebook as well. Like we already mentioned, there's the Walking Dead TV podcast Facebook page. There's also the brand new HHWLOD Podcast Network page. Head over, like them both, and check out all the great content, and maybe win some free stuff. And you can follow us on Twitter at WDTV Podcast and at HHWLOD_network. And so until there's no more room left in hell and the dead walk the earth, remember, like Brad said, no body, no death. Have a good week, everybody. Now for our spoiler section, gentlemen. So for our spoiler section, this is your final warning, folks. If you don't want to know anything about what might happen in the second half of the season, which granted, this will mostly be just us guessing at where we think it's going to go, as well as the next episode title, head out now. And we hope you join us next week. The next episode will be titled Here We Remain, which I believe is another title from the trades, and that will air all the way in 2014, February 9th is when the show is returning. So we get a couple months off of the holidays and football. And then Here We Remain, which is written by Robert Kirkman and directed by Greg Nicotero, will air on the 9th of February. So gentlemen, what do we think is going to happen in the second half of the season? Do we think Baby Judith is alive? If we do, who do we think has her? Etc. and so forth.
I have a crazy Baby Judith theory.
Okay.
And this is probably half-baked at best, but just something that just kind of popped into my head on my way home from work today. What if Baby Judith was bitten, not like severely, but just had been bitten?
A nibble.
Just nibbled on, and was either Bob or somebody else got her away, and she doesn't turn.
Oh.
Like maybe she's, I mean, really far-fetched, but I was just curious. I was like, maybe she's like, this Messiah child or something like that.
Sounds like The Last of Us.
Yeah, I don't think it'll go there, and I really hope it doesn't go
Yeah,
there.
that gotta be like, really? Like, this is the family that's supposed to solve everything.
I mean, I understand that there is a segment of the viewing populace who really wants the show to be about finding a cure, etc., and so forth, but that's not what a good zombie story is about, with a few exceptions, and it's just not what the Walking Dead comic or show has ever been about. It's here to stay. Zombies are a thing. You just have to deal with it. And having somebody who's immune or who could be a messiah type deal, that's just a totally different show.
I was thinking maybe even like new births aren't affected. Like for whatever reason, it's almost like a genetic thing, or just whatever, it's not passed on, or they find out that that there can be another generation or something like that. I mean, still there's 6 billion people in the world, and if most of them turn into zombies, even if new births are coming in, there's still a pretty big zombie to not ratio. Anyway, just something crazy I thought of.
There's a very convincing theory going around on Reddit with screen caps and everything that Tyrese actually rescued Judith. You can see shots of him running with his gun slung over his shoulder after he's rescued by Lizzie and the girls, and he's holding something that you can't see as he runs away from the camera, and he's in the same general vicinity of Judith's car seat. I think I would buy that, and I also like the theory that kind of goes on from that in the comments on Reddit, which was, what if Tyrese rescues Judith? And then you've got Tyrese, Judith, the 3 or 4 little girls. What if they meet up with Carol? And so now Tyrese is met up with Carol. He doesn't know that she either killed Karen or at least claimed to have killed Karen, and it's them forming a relationship for a few months before they meet back up with the main group. And so now Tyrese would be torn on what to do because he's fallen in love with this woman who may or may not have killed the last woman he fell in love with.
I mean,
That would be pretty compelling.
yeah.
Well, that would be cool, but then add in the crazy idea that somebody had earlier that Carol was actually covering for those girls.
Yeah, so now you've got the person who claimed they killed them, the person
Right.
who actually killed them, and the person who mourned the killing.
Right, that would just add another layer to that whole intrigue.
See, if it played out that way, I love it. I think that leaves a whole lot of interest in where those storylines could go. So.
Does anybody else have any Judith theories before we move on to the next topic?
I don't necessarily need her to be in the show, but I don't necessarily need her to not be in the show. I mean, she's, and we'll talk about this in the second half of the spoiler issue, but spoiler section. But at this point in the comic, Judith is a non-issue. You know what I mean?
Yes, as we read the comic currently, she's not a player.
A giant sword picks her up, guys. Sorry, spoiler. Takes her back to a nest. It's like, I'll take care of her, Rick. Like, it's weird. Bird talks. Oh my god.
So going on for the rest of the season, we've got that Phantom radio broadcast that we heard in the middle of the first half of the season, the Those Who Arrive Survive thing. We also know from casting that Abraham, Rosita, and what's the other character's name? It starts with E, right? Like Emmett or something?
Eugene.
So Eugene, Abraham, and Rosita, big comic characters, will be showing up in the second half of the season. So we're excited to see them. Do you think they're going to be connected to the radio broadcast? Do you think they're going to be completely separate? What group do you think they meet up with first, assuming that the group is still separated when we come back?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Which would be the worst case scenario for a group to meet them?
Well, because I like those characters quite a bit. I'm looking forward to seeing
I
them.
can't.
Because Abraham has the best mustache.
That's one of
Yeah.
the reasons, yeah. I mean, obviously.
I can't really think of maybe Tyrese. I don't say that because again, like strong alpha male type. I mean, well, Tyrese kind of flips back and forth. I mean, we've seen when push comes to shove in the show, Tyrese can be that guy. So
And Abraham can be as well for people who haven't read the book. So now
Right,
we have
right. So
3 or
maybe-
4 alpha males.
so maybe that would kind of start off as confrontational. But I can't really say any those guys meeting up with any one group over another being particularly positive or negative.
Probably Rick, if anything, because I think they skirt around this. I mean, things involving Rick and Carl after the events of the prison, some of that's taken place in the show already, so you need to give Rick
Right.
something to do, and probably interacting with an entirely new group would be a good way to go about that.
I have to believe that as part of the contingency plan, they were supposed to meet somewhere. I mean, I'm sure they would have thought, well, if we get separated, this is where we're going. So I would think before a short period of time that they would, kind of like we saw at the end of, I guess, what was it, season 2 when they, when they met back up on the highway like that. So I'm sure that's not out of the realm of possibility.
This is a big fan. So me just back at the barn. Like, that make everyone so.
Yeah.
Putting aside Aaron's hate for Tara and Lily are still out there. Do we think they meet up with one of the groups? I kind of feel like there's still story to tell with them. At
Well,
least with Tara.
and I guess this is kind of spoilery. We know that Tara has credits in, I think, episode 13 and 16 at this point. So
Oh, okay.
she's credited as a cast member at least 2 episodes in the future. So we know she's not going for good.
She takes revenge on Lizzie for killing her girlfriend. Because the show hates little girls, so I mean, that's so likely, apparently, right?
Do we think they meet up with a group and maybe become, what group would be most likely to take in their attackers, if they even know that that's who they are?
Michonne.
I think by the time they get, like I said, I think the group will be back together in fairly short order. So maybe after 2 episodes they'll be back. So I think it's almost moot. I think personally that they'll all be together again relatively soon.
Anything else for the second half of the season that we want to guess at, gentlemen?
But Carol, and if she's covering them, that's the only thing I'm really interested in terms of like a future development and whatever the radio signal thing is, if that's Abe or whoever.
And definitely Abe's mustache.
Abe's mustache, how he turns out, keeps it neat and stuff during the apocalypse.
What brand of wax does he use? So let's give another further spoiler warning for anyone who doesn't mind hearing our guesses of what happened in the second half of the season, but who does want to keep away from comic book spoilers. Maybe they're catching up. Hey, the mid-season break would be a great time to do that. We're now going to talk about things from the comic that either directly mirrored or were very different from the events in this episode. So that's the first 48 issues of the comic. If you don't want to be spoiled on them, tune out now. Have a great week. We will be back in short order. So, gentlemen, who wants to start? There was plenty of things that were very, very similar, if not identical, like the shot of the governor on the tank and the trucks and everything. And there were things that were very different.
Yeah, I mean, Governor had both his he had both his arms on the show, but yet one arm on the tank. So
Yes, and the governor had lost one of his arms at this point.
less mutilation.
His prisoners were also different. His prisoners were Tyrese and Michonne instead of Herschel and Michonne, and Tyrese definitely got his head chopped off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, he ends up getting killed by one of his own people.
Lily.
Right. I mean,
a different Lily.
But for
but
different reasons in the comic, kind of. I mean, she's the woman freaks out because she made her kill a baby. Yeah, she made her
I mean,
kill a
that kind
baby.
of, yeah, I obviously that's different, but I mean, it's following a similar pattern of his own people kill him because he's gone too far to an extent.
And in the comic, we should say Laurie's still alive at this point, but she's holding Judith when Lily cuts them down. So Lily kills both Laurie and Judith, and then when she realizes what she did at the governor's orders, she then kills the governor.
I think when I read issue 48, that may have been the thing that the comic that I've read that in my whole career of reading comics that shocked me the most. I mean, that was just
I agree 100%.
that was just the craziest thing I had ever read was seeing that issue.
That's the kind of thing where I flip the page backwards and flip it again, thinking it would be different the second time around. It's like, Jesus, that
I missed
happened.
something. Somebody fall asleep. Was this a dream?
No, that's issue 75, I believe, where we have the dream sequence. Yeah, probably the most shocking thing, well, not the most shocking thing necessarily, but the biggest thing to remember crazy-wise happening until issue 100 of the book, which we won't spoil, but where another horrible, terrible, no good thing happens to another character we love, or to a character we love, we should say, since it was Laurie in issue 48. Do we remember anybody else who lived or died that was different? I mean, Herschel was still alive at that point, right? He was still on his farm, I think.
Herschel was at the prison at that point.
No, because Maggie and Glenn weren't there. Maggie and Glenn had gone back
They
to
moved.
back to the farm
Yeah.
When did Herschel die then in the comic?
later on.
You sure?
Pretty sure.
Did Herschel's son die? Because he had a son in the comic too, right?
Yeah, I think maybe 2 or 3 of his kids actually die in the prison firefight.
And Carol was dead at this point as well.
Yes.
She had kind of gone loopy because
say loopy.
she had fallen in love with Tyrese, and Tyrese rejected her. She tried to kill herself.
Well, Tyrese was wooed over by Michonne.
Yes,
Yeah.
there were some shenanigans going on there, and she went crazy, and then she ended up basically inviting a zombie to bite her.
And wasn't that also after she'd found the bodies of those dead little girls?
That
Wasn't she the one who found them?
no, I thought that was Maggie that found those.
Might have been.
Well,
I read this
I think it's important too that Sophia was still alive at this point
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And also another crazy thing that happened in the comic was that illustrated just how crazy Carol had gone. She suggested to Lori that she and Rick and Carol all get married and be a marital unit, the 3 of them, because she loved them so much.
Yeah.
And Lori was like, "You're okay now. You're just talking crazy." So all this stuff layered on just really sent her over the deep end. And they had captured a zombie because somebody wanted to study the zombies for science purposes, and she went up to the zombie because she was crazy and said, "I hope you'll like me. Nobody else here seems to like me." Those weren't her exact words, but that's the message she was sending. And she ended up getting close enough to letting the zombie bite her in the neck.
Who was studying the zombie? Was that Eugene, or I can't remember exactly when those 3 were introduced?
That was after. That was farther on when Eve and Eugene.
I don't remember who it was, but I am remembering that, right? They did have a zombie chained up inside the fence with them, just the one zombie.
I think you're correct.
that-
But I just can't remember who would have been studying it.
Yeah.
Well, then
maybe I
too,
was-
Maggie and Glenn, like they had this weird moment where you thought they were going to do like a ritual suicide, and it turns out they just shaved their heads
Yeah.
in the prison barbershop.
I did a little reading here on Wikipedia because I wanted to be. Herschel did die from the governor. His son got shot, and then Herschel was so pissed. He was just so like giving up on life at that point that he let the governor kill him. He just kind of
Yeah, didn't he say something like, "Just kill me"?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
But weren't Maggie and Glenn back at the farm
Yeah,
for some
yeah,
reason?
but no. They eventually came back over to the prison and everything. Like things just changed at that point. They all got back to the prison. Everything went to the prison before the governor came in.
Okay, I thought that happened after. Like I said, it's been a long time.
yeah.
since I read
Dale was still alive at this point.
Dale's
stuff.
alive.
Oh, yeah, Dale doesn't die for a long time. after
Yeah, you
that.
like Dale a
Spoiler.
lot.
Oh no, saying Dale's dead does not spoil how Dale dies because that is my favorite storyline ever, and I hope we get to it eventually in the show. But
I would
yes.
love to have seen Dale go out that way instead of the way he went out. But
Yeah.
It would have been an improvement.
Andrea was still alive at this point in the comic.
And she was continuing to be awesome
Yeah.
Yes.
We're not saying if she's still alive now in the comic as we're reading, but at this point, at issue 48, she is still alive.
and still awesome.
Yeah.
She's just more awesome.
And the way that ended is they got separated. Rick and Carl, were on their own. And this is what I was saying earlier. Some of the scenes that we see for the second half of the season, we see Rick and Carl alone in a house, and Rick is not doing well. Carl is yelling, "Wake up, wake up!" And something very similar to that happens, in the upcoming issues as well. So
Yeah, that's about in the comics where we start the whole Rick is getting phone calls from Ghost Lori storyline.
Right.
Although she does not appear as an actual phantom that I recall anyway in the books, but that's where that whole phone storyline happens. So it'll be interesting to see how that will be better or worse without her death on top of everything else.
Well, that's why I like this story a lot because it leaves Carl on his own. And Carl's a lot more developed as a confident fighter than he is in the comic at this point. Like Carl's a lot more innocent. He's still innocent in the comic at this point. He's maybe shot a couple things here or there, but he hasn't gunned down a field of zombies with his dad in the backyard of the prison like he did in the show at this point. So it's like it puts him in a very vulnerable spot when his dad is literally unconscious and talking to no one on the phone while Carl has to deal with this craziness that has happened at the prison. Now he's by himself basically.
And Rick had also been recently very seriously wounded. I think we talked about it previously.
Plenty of things have gone on with Rick. It's not that big of a-
At this point in the comics, Rick is missing a hand, which they pretty much said will never happen in the show. It would just be too expensive to do all the time, so they did it with Merle instead. But so Rick is not only like emotionally damaged, but he's physically in a worse state than he is in the show, just because he's missing an appendage. But he's still in a bad place in the show physically as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get that hardcover out and reread that issue. And
I think I might have to as well.
I'm gonna get out issue hardcover 5 and read where the story went at that point, so I can start comparing.
Because like a lot of people die at 48, like a lot. Like,
Yeah.
It reminds you like how many. There are a lot more family members I think in Herschel's family in the comic than there were in the, or at least that we saw or were aware of. I think.
Yeah.
But-
His family was essentially the inspiration for 18 Kids Accounting. He lost like 7 to zombies, and he still had more.
We saw them in the TV show; they were just already dead in the barn.
Yeah.
Right. Let's actors, okay. So is that it, gentlemen? Do we have anything else to add?
Well, I think that's it.
Alrighty, that's it for this week. We will be back soon to discuss the season finale, or the mid-season finale some more, read emails, talk Facebook stuff, play voicemails, and until then, I leave you with a song that makes me think of Rufia and the Lost Girls, Lizzie and her band of child killers, as we head off into the blooper territory. So have a good week, everybody.
So.
Let's get this straight. Oh yeah, we are the champions. We'll be battle against the unicorn. Oh yes, battle against the unicorns. It's not too late. You could gamble all the heavy hitters, but we'll battle against the unicorns with glitter.
The shiny red button.
Yeah.
Test.
The shiny red button beckoning him ever closer every
Testing
time.
the spectacles
recording.
while it
Why
wants.
is there never a red button?
I can barely hear Aaron.
I'm here. I can talk.
And the day is saved by Carl, who shoots Rick. And the day... bloopers.
50 busters.
You sound like Stefan from Saturday Night Live. This one episode had everything.
What do you think the governor's going to do with Herschel's head after he cut it off? By the way, any thoughts?
Aquarium.
Aquarium.